where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Criminality. Or if this is your first time here, welcome to Criminality. Sorry, you guys. I was running a few minutes late. I thought I had time to like scarf down some food, and then I realized what time it was. But I was like, I can't sit through this live tonight and not have any food. So I apologize for being late. Thank you guys for checking on me. So tonight we are going to be talking about Delphi. And I do have a guest that's going to come up, and I'm hoping Sleuthy's going to come on. She hasn't messaged me back yet, but you know, whatever. She can get on whenever she wants to. And so we have Dateline, who is covering Delphi tonight. I think it's the first time that Dateline's covered Delphi, but somebody says I'm wrong, but I can't find any other episodes where Dateline's covered Delphi. So if you guys know the episode, let me know. I'm contemplating streaming it, but I'm a little nervous because Dateline gets a little funky. No, I have not dyed my hair. I do. I mean, I dye my hair. It needs to be done, but you don't have to call me out on it. Just joking. It definitely needs to be done. Anyway, so I'm contemplating doing it. I have a couple different streaming services that I think that might work, but I don't know. Anyway, we also have just some shenanigans from Gull, as always, that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet on this channel because I've been covering the trials of Zachary Hughes and Megan Boswell and whatnot. So we're gonna do a little bit of a catch up. We're just gonna kind of hang out and just talk Delphi tonight. So if you guys have any topics that you want to make sure that we cover, we'll cover it. If you have any comments that you want to make sure that are shared, we'll share them. So Michael, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for coming on. I know that you had something that you wanted to talk about too.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Always.
It's a big night with Dateline coming up, right?
I know.
Big night for Delphi.
I'm curious how they're going to edit it because, you know, it's Dateline, so I don't know.
Well, what I'm curious about is whether they got the original video.
There's no way. You think they did?
We'll see. I think there is a way.
Oh.
I don't know whether the way happens, but I think there is a way.
All right. I'm gonna see about streaming it. I'm gonna pull up some streaming services and see. My concern is one that if I pause it too much to do commentary, that the streaming service won't have it on, you know, because sometimes they take it down once it's done with the live and then they put it back up the next day. So I'm worried that we might run out of time, but I'm not really sure. I don't typically ever stream anything like a Dateline to know how to really do it. So we'll see. I'm working on it in the background. We do have a Discord where we could do a watch party, but we'll see.
Oh, all you people in Discord groups. I can't.
I have a Discord that is not public. I literally use it to drop documents. That's all I have it for. I just like, it's where I have like all my cases and I drop a bunch of documents so I can try to keep them organized. And I actually quit doing that about 4 months ago. So it's really just a Discord that just sits there and is non-existent for anything other than pretty looks.
So, you know, as people may be aware, there's been a big to-do made in various places about Delphi, Evansdale, and geofence information.
Yes.
And you know, the bombshell, it's a bombshell, is not a bombshell. It's really a dud.
Okay.
And I think what's happened is the result of two mistakes. One of them's mine, but mine follows another. I was watching Michelle After Dark today, and she actually played the critical portion from Amy's Live on Case by Case, where I talked about Delphi and Evansdale, and I thought I had been pretty careful in what I said, and Michelle certainly noticed that I didn't say anything about geofencing.
Okay.
And what I said was, and it was in a context of not to, you know, Amy's done terrific work about sort of the networks of people around Delphi and various things. And a lot of it's connected with, you know, her interest in Ashley Garth, but it's also connected with Delphi. And, you know, it's a small, what I was saying on Amy's Live was that, you know, Delphi is a small community. There are all these really interesting connections and coincidences. And I pulled up another coincidence and said, you know, what are the odds that two people in Delphi, what are the odds, sorry, what are the odds in the two people in Delphi would have been in Evansdale in 2012? And I absolutely have information that two people were. I have some information about the phone activity of one of them, but I didn't say anything about geofencing, and I didn't say I have any phone information about Evansdale. I only know these people were in Evansdale. When they were there, I can't tell you. I think it was around the time of the crimes, but it was certainly looked into by the defense. And I do know who the two people are, and people wanted me to sort of out, you know, who are they? It's nobody you've ever heard of, and I'm not gonna talk about who they were because it serves no purpose.
Okay, so can I clarify? So the two people from Delphi, are they two people from the geofence? Then I can't even clarify because I can't speak. Are they two people from the... Go ahead.
I have no geofence information. Sorry, I interrupted you, T.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to clarify that it's just two people from Delphi. It's nothing to do with the Delphi geofence either. It's just two people from Delphi.
As far as I know, it's not. As far as I know, it's tower information. It's not geofence information for one of the people. I know nothing about the phone information for the other person, only that it is alleged he was in Evansdale as well in 2012. And I think that the information for the person with the phone, I think the phone information for the one person I know about was tower information, not geofence information.
Okay, so then to clarify that, is the tower information from the Delphi, from Delphi, does it have to do with like the murder scene and the tower information coming from that? I just want to clarify, it's not just two random Delphi people who happen to also be in Evansdale in 2012. They're specific people that have to do with...
They're specific people. Yeah, they're identifiably specific. Yeah, they're identifiable. Yeah, absolutely. And
from the time of the Delphi murder tower stuff.
Yeah. And I guess because they were on the tower, or because they were in the geofence, because I don't know if they were in the geofence. I'm suspecting they were, because the geofence basically took in the city.
Right. Okay.
But again, I only know about one of them, at least the phone information for one of them. And yeah, it was kind of odd that, you know, this guy's phone went offline about a little after 2, and it came back online. And I think I said 8:30. I looked again, and I think it's actually 9:30 the next morning. Got that wrong.
Okay.
And so what happened was, yeah,
this is one of the phones that registered
yeah,
on the Delphi Tower. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, again, I can't say for sure that it's the Delphi Tower. I've seen this report. I don't know where the information came from, whether it was from the tower or from some geofence report, the CAST report. But it's definitely there. I mean, I'm not making any of this up. So then what happens is somebody texts me, and I mean, it's really a wonderful exercise in how things get out of hand. Somebody texted me saying, trying to confirm. So both of these were on the geofence information, and I wasn't thinking about geofences. I was just thinking about them both being there, and I wrote back yes. And then suddenly this person goes out there and says it's on the geofence. So this person made the mistake listening to me that I'd said anything about geofencing information. And then I made the mistake of not slowing down, listening, reading her text carefully. And she could have reasonably read what I wrote back as confirming that it was all geofence information. And I really apologize to everybody for having contributed. I am not the sole contributor, but I certainly, by not being careful, contributed to the current furore about geofence information in Evansdale and Delphi. I will say, Michelle After Dark does just terrific work, and was so pleased when, she sort of started off talking about geofencing and oh wow, and then she played the thing and said, well, actually, he didn't say anything about geofencing.
It's just because that's kind of what
did.
It's been spread about geofencing. So I just want to, for just clarification purposes, I'm going to say the whole thing, and then you're going to tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. And not about names, because I don't know names. There's 2 phones that ping off of the Delphi Tower around the time of the crime and show up on some form of report that is included in information you've seen. In that, 2 of those 2 phones we know belong to these 2 specific people, and those 2 specific people at some point in 2012 were in Evansdale.
That's close. I only really know about the phone, and I know that the phone information for one is there. I don't know. I know that the allegation is the second person was there. I really don't know about the phone information, how they know that person. I assume that there was phone information by which they identified this person, but I haven't seen that.
Okay, so I'm going to try again one more time then. So there is one phone that belongs to a certain individual who also knows this second individual, but the one phone pings off the Delphi Towers sometime around the Delphi crime, and these 2 people in particular at some point were in Evansdale in 2012.
Yep. But I have no information. If you said that the 2 people know each other, I don't think I never said that.
Okay. Damn it. I'm trying here, Michael.
There's no connection between them. I understand, and it's complicated, and especially in a world.
If it's not phone data, how do we know that there is this second person, or is it just somebody else
Well,
in general, I guess, how does the second person tie into it?
it's a reliable source. It's a reliable source.
Okay.
I mean, it's this person.
One is
This
via
person
phone.
wasn't. The second person. I mean, it's so reliable. This person was seriously investigated.
Okay, so I'm gonna try it one more time then. One is off of a tower. One is off of a very reliable source. The tower has to do with being documented on some form of documentation around the Delphi murders. The other one is from the reliable source. And both of these people, at one point in 2012, were in Evansdale.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Got it.
That's all. And like, I've never been to Evansdale. I mean, again, I just think, even without the geofencing, it's just like, I mean, you've got a town of 3,000 people. I mean, the fact that the two of them were in Evansdale in 2012 at all, 400 miles away, is pretty remarkable.
It's true. But so I guess, and we don't know when in 2012 these people were there.
I'm assuming, since they were both looked at, I'm assuming it was close enough to make them interesting.
Okay, that's interesting. And then second, there's no phone data that places either of these people in Evansdale around the time of that crime that you know of.
I am not aware of any that I know of. Yeah, not that I know of.
Okay.
Absolutely not. So it is absolutely untrue, and I apologize for contributing to the idea that these two people, their phones showed up in geofence information in Delphi and in Evansdale.
There's no phone information for Evansdale that we have, that you have. I don't have any for anybody. So
no, I have no information. No, I know so little about Evansdale, I can't tell you.
okay. Well, that was kind of when somebody had brought it up in my chat, because I had missed the live, apparently, that this had happened on Case's channel. Somebody brought it up in my chat, and I was like, that doesn't even really make sense, because we don't, like, Evansdale is so closed off. Like, they don't share any information about that investigation from law enforcement. Like, that's one of the reasons it's hard for people to cover it, is because there's very little information out there that actually has to do with the crime. So I was like,
you mean they're doing a Delphi?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
That's that. And doing a Delphi was so successful in Delphi.
And you think it's even longer ago. We're at what, 15 years now? 13 years? 13 years?
13.
Can't do math, apparently. It's one of those days. I just want to give you a heads up that Luke is in chat, so that if your Wi-Fi or anything starts going crazy, we know what's going on. Just want to let you know that.
Absolutely. What we know is Luke's hacking me.
Just wanted to let you know that he is in the vicinity, and so things could start going crazy.
So, as penance for my contribution to the misdirection, I do want to sort of pose a question to you and to your audience,
Please.
and that is, so it turns out that Libby's phone at 3:35 in the afternoon, there are conflicting reports on this, either at 3:35 or at 2:20. Take your pick. On the 13th, was at 4% power. The battery level is 4%. And I want to know, in what world does an iPhone 6 with a battery level at 4% survive until 4:33 the following morning, but Apple itself says the battery life on an iPhone 6, and this is from 2017. The battery life on an iPhone 6 is 8 to 10 hours.
Okay, so this is a question I've wondered. Do we know what the percent was that the phone was at when it was found? Is that information that we know?
It was dead.
When it was found, it was completely dead.
Mm-hmm.
So 4% from, regardless if you go with the 2 hour time or the 2 o'clock time frame or the 5 o'clock time frame. Did you say 5 or 3? I need to write that down.
3.
What was it? 3 what?
3:35.
3:35 or 2:20?
2:20, I think, is the other. Yeah.
It's at 4%.
Yeah. I'm sorry. 241.
241 and 335.
Yeah, and it actually goes. Yeah.
And it's at 4%, and it lasts until 4:33 in the morning. Where
Yeah, and that's when all the text messages streamed in.
I don't think that's
And
possible.
I can't. Yeah, I don't either. Something is really wrong.
Well, it's also interesting because Becky at one point had said that, like, when they were calling Libby's phone, it would ring and ring and ring, and nobody would answer. And then eventually, as they were calling the phone that afternoon, evening, it would start going directly to voicemail. And then they claim that law enforcement claimed, I think it was at 10:30. I don't remember the exact time. I'd have to go back to my spreadsheet, but around the 10:30 mark, that the phone was dead or no longer in the area.
And then that's why they did the 2024 extraction in August or whatever, because they had to exchange. They had to explain. Sorry, not exchange. They had to explain the 433 behavior. Cecil, I think he testified that, yeah, he made a mistake. He thought that it had gone off at 10:32 or so, but that it turns out that it had survived until 4:33 in the morning. And I'm sorry, at 4%, you're not even going to get to 5 o'clock.
Well, then I'm wondering what the battery percent was at that it even got to 4%, because she charged it before they left. And then I think she was charging it again in Kelsey's car, if memory serves.
She charged it in Kelsey's car, and getting out of Kelsey's car, it was at 28%.
That phone could not last until 4:33 in the morning. I just don't know how. You know what I could do? I could Google Apple websites, and then I can be an expert and tell you the answer. You give me just a second.
You won't find it if you Google it. You will find it if you Cecil it.
Yes, I'm going to use Cecil Google. 4% with no usage goes a long way, but the problem is there is technically usage because people are calling it, and there's messages being sent and left.
No kidding.
Huh. Okay, so let me see what the chat has to say. They're Google experts. They'll know. So if the phone is at 4%, how did all the messages come in? That's the $1 million question. So 28% at 157. Right? 157, I think it is. So it goes from the 28% down to 4% from her taking the videos and the pictures that she's taking out on the bridge. And then It's dead when it's found the next day.
The power reports are a little bit different on the two reports, but basically, yeah. I mean, you know, pick 241 or pick 335 at 4%, and I the other. What?
I think Luke got you. I can't hear you. Did she call Derek from Kelsey's car or after they got to the bridge? If you go with the timing of it, she's calling him. She's calling Derek from the car. Hold on, I'm gonna get this dog. Sleuthy, you coming up? Okay, yeah, you can hear her barking in the background. Cecil asked Jeeves. So Cecil Googled it, but got on an Apple forum, supposedly. It possibly went into low battery mode, Mommy Kitty says. Okay, so I don't have an iPhone, so I can't even speak from like experience on what would have happened. I would just be lucky guessing, or I'd have to start Googling stuff. So it would be really from you guys that have iPhones. Think about at 4%, if you just leave your phone, does it, how long would it last? Even not being used at all. If it's not being touched, not being used, how long does 4% last on the phone? Is it going to just last forever? Because I don't think once like my phone gets down, the battery's just gone. It just is gone, even with a battery saver on it.
Yeah, 4%. I'm just either something's the matter with the data. It didn't happen.
4% would deplete quickly when it's not in airplane mode and search for a tower. But since it's not connecting to the tower, they're saying it's dead or gone. Classic Overthinker says, even in low power mode, a 6S wouldn't be long. Dan says, mine not used goes half of a day on 1%. Seriously?
I don't believe that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's just crazy to me. Like I said, I don't have an iPhone, but I know my Android would not do that. It should deplete quicker as it got colder. That the cold should be affecting it. Julie's here. Hi, Julie. Everybody wish Julie a happy belated birthday. Happy belated birthday, Julie.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Julie.
Just Me says, my friend who is an Apple Store tech says it would be magic. It would be magic that lets it last that long.
Yeah. And it gets better because, yeah. No, I mean, I just, it's just, like, two experts are up there, Cecil and Stacey Eldridge, and like, this just isn't a thing. I don't get it. Let me put it differently.
Okay.
Let me put it differently. Look at the reaction of, the people in the chat. If the jury had been told that phone was at 4%.
Yeah, and most of them probably have iPhones, and they'd be like, no way is my phone going to last all night on 4%, especially with people calling it off the hook.
Exactly. Can you think of the juror questions that would have come up? Imagine.
So is this information that they had at trial that could have been asked about?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not calling out the lawyers here. I'm trying to come up with like what happened.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm not calling out the lawyers either. I mean, I think they did the best they could at the time with what they were allowed to do, and under we can always Monday morning quarterback anybody. So that's not my intention. I was just wanting to make sure it was in discovery. That's all I wanted to know. Dan says, I'm surprised the phone would have lasted any time with it being in the cold, unless it's turned off for a while. So, okay, so putting it in airplane mode, would that change anything? And then would that help save the battery though? At 4%, I just feel like at 4%, my phone dies without doing shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at with it. So I'm trying to figure out an iPhone 6S back in the day.
Yeah, but we know that it wasn't in airplane mode because it rang and rang for some of Becky Patty's calls.
But then it stops. So that's why I'm wondering, it does it, and we have the jack situation. This is a very intriguing situation you've brought here, Michael.
Well, I hope it's sufficient penance for.
Well, I think we got that. I think we got that cleared up. So I thank you for doing that, and we can share that too. So now everybody, everybody in chat, they love the Twitters and the Reddits. So the information will get shared, so it gets clarified, which is good. It is what it is.
Well,
I mean,
and I just thought it was, and so I teach law, and so I teach, and like in teaching mode for me, it's kind of emblematic about how just a couple of little mistakes turn into a whole narrative. And I think that's, if you think about Delphi over the years, there have been eruptions of things which later turned out to be nothing. And they turned out to be nothing because people are kind of making the maximal inferences. So even Michelle, I notice, as careful as she is, she noticed that I didn't mention anything about geofencing, but she assumed I was talking about phones in Evansdale. And I also never said anything about phones in Evansdale.
But it's really easy to just infer what we want to, and I mean, I think that's what the jury does anyway. So, but in a case like this, it's tough because this is 8 years going on now, and the public and the people who care about the case, whether it be the legal side, whether it be they care about the girls, they care about justice, they care about constitutional right. No matter what you care about, we're starved for truthful information in the public, and so people do want to latch on to anything that could potentially answer any form of questions. And so that's the part that sucks, because 8 years in, we're hungry. And then and mistakes happen. You read a text message and you're like, yeah, these people were supposedly in Evansdale in 2012, and you're like, yeah, that's the answer. And then you're like, shit, wait a minute, you said something about geofencing, and I didn't mean to say yes to that part. It's also why punctuation matters in separating multiple questions, so that people can answer the one question and not the other. You know what I mean? So it happens. We're human.
Yeah, and there's confirmation bias to boot.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like Woman says, and we're traumatized. We're traumatized over here with the lack of it.
Wow.
A lot of this could be solved if they just put the information out publicly instead of trying to hide everything. And then we're like, okay, if this is this, then that has to be that. And then we fill in the blanks with our own stuff. So it's perfect that you come out and you say, okay, wait a minute, let me just clarify. This is actually what it is. This is what I meant. This is what happened. And that's better than most anybody does in this case when it comes to anybody involved in the case, even from the outside. A lot of times people won't come forward and clarify what the hell they meant. So that just lives on forever.
Yeah, and I thought I needed to say something. I mean, one part of me wanted to just say, just let it die, but that wasn't happening.
No, I've seen it getting more and more because now I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to actually figure out this whole. For myself, I'm thinking I got to figure out this whole geofencing thing because I thought it was kind of just like a like dud in the water when we were talking about it in the chat, and then all of a sudden, like I'm seeing it on Twitter, I'm seeing it on Reddit. So I'm like, okay, it's getting traction. So it's good. It's good to clarify it.
And I think what I want to say about the two people involved is this. I mean, people are also spending time trying to guess who it is. It is no, two people are nobody anybody's heard about in this case. And, you know, without actual, I mean, there are a bunch of people who've already been more or less obliquely accused, and I'm not putting out names of anybody that I don't have any pretty solid evidence for that they were involved. There's been a lot of that, and I'm just not doing it.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't want to do that. I know people. I'm hungry for names. Like I said, we're hungry for information. But if I've always just been like, if you can show, or not you particularly, but if they can show that these people are looked at, investigated, I would. That's what I want to be able to see. Like I don't feel that way about specific people that have been brought up, and if that's the case, like I don't want to just go throwing people out there all willy nilly just because somebody called them in or said XYZ. If you get information that can actually be useful, then by all means, I have no problem helping look into stuff, but I don't want to just throw people out there all willy nilly either. I mean, I know, like I said, we're a community of people that are hungry for information, no matter what side of any fences you're on. We want answers, and throwing people's names out there, online sleuths, we're going to go find them. We're going to go find what we want to find.
Yeah. So what else is new?
I don't know. I was going to see if I could find this Dateline situation and get us going on that. Well, so I haven't been on since Gull has denied everything without hearings. So I was going to talk a little bit.
I kind of expected that. I mean, I'm not. It's no big deal. I mean, those things were written. I mean, yeah, there was a small hope that get a hearing on the motion to correct error, but it was a small hope, and it was Andy and Brad and Jennifer talking to the Court of Appeals and sort of clearing out some underbrush. I mean, at least with the motion to strike, talking to the Court of Appeals and actually sort of giving some direction maybe to Stacy Uliana and Mark Lehman doing the appeal. What they raise is going to be up to them. But the motion to correct error also took up, at least on the chronic claim, that argument is sitting there written for them.
Which is what you had said when you came up, when it very first came out, was like, hey, this isn't necessarily going to get a hearing. It's to put all this information on the record so they can use it when, if and when they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there I go repeating myself again. I think it's time for me to get off.
You don't have to. So I do have. What are your thoughts on the fact that she responds to NVC with like 4 pages of reasons and what she wants them to do versus how she's ever responded to the actual defense attorneys in the case?
It's interesting. She sort of pats them on the head for how well they managed the pool, right?
Right.
And I will say, I don't know what she found ambiguous about asking for the bridge guy video. It's like, please be more specific. How much more? I mean, by exhibit number. I mean, seriously. I mean, everybody knows what it is. It's just obstructionist. Look, I don't know what to make of her orders. I can tell you that if and leave all the other, leave the van, leave Reese Davis aside, leave the chronic claim aside. After the motion to strike, if I were the judge, and it had been more or less proven that in his affidavit, Lesenby had contradicted his trial testimony, his hearing testimony back in June of 2023. I'd have been getting the folks into court, and I'd have been asking Mr. McClelland if he had anything to do with writing that affidavit. And I can tell you he did have something to do with writing that affidavit, because I may have talked to people for the motion to correct error to get the information, but I wrote all those affidavits. They signed them because that was the information they had. So right. Nick McClelland almost certainly wrote that affidavit for Lesenby. And in what world does the prosecutor write an affidavit? What?
Never mind. I was mistaking the two. The affidavit. I said never mind. I figured out exactly what my mistake was. So keep going.
Well, in what world does Nick McClelland write an affidavit for Lesenby to have him sign saying it's overcrowding, when McClelland himself knows he testified that Rick Allen was sent to the White County Jail for his own safety. Period. End of story. That's what he said. I mean, it's really not debatable.
But why is Nick even writing it and lying about it to begin with? Because he was also at that hearing where Lesenby answered that question.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, it's and Gull may have forgotten about it, and that's fine. But once the motion to strike was filed, and I mean, the difference is there in black and white.
She doesn't seem to care about that. She just is like, no, you're not. We're not even talking about this. It's almost like how Andy made the statement about how Nick responded to his email was kind of like a, too bad, so sad. You already had your chance. Your guy was guilty. Just let it go. Like, I kind of feel like that's like the general consensus of how Gull feels. Like, too bad, so sad. I'm not changing my mind. You get to just, you can take it to the appellate court all you want, but I don't really care because I'm never going to give you anything you asked for.
I suppose so, but the whole Lesenby thing wouldn't affect I'd be getting people in for a hearing about sort of sanctions, or at least to embarrass them publicly, because if I were a judge and I had absolute evidence that people were lying in my court, I'd want to do something about that.
Do you think they had any conversations, ex parte, like on their own?
Who?
Like Gull and Nick, about something like that?
I seriously doubt it.
Okay. You think that this
look?
just doesn't? Go ahead.
I'm not going to suggest that without some sort of actual receipt.
Okay, that's fair. So Adjusted Fate says they're 10 minutes behind, but wanted to add background. App refresh back in 2017 was a huge battery suck. To go back to your original comments about the phone battery life.
What was a big battery suck?
A background, it was called background app refresh back in 2017 was a huge battery suck.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. So that's out of my purview. Fiend says the only retribution that will work for the geofence fiasco is by naming names.
Well, sorry, Fiend, ain't happening.
And he told me to quit stalling and get to the names already.
there is look, these people looked at, I don't know enough. I just, I've looked at the one guy with a phone, and like, I can't find any reason to think, other than the weird phone activity. I can't find any reason to think that this guy was at all involved. I'm not saying he wasn't, but I can't find a reason that he even might have been.
Okay. This is the phone guy, not the other guy that's from the very reliable source, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's actually more suspicious.
The one without the phone data.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And we don't have any idea that those two are actually connected.
No, it's very hard. That's the other thing. It's very, I mean, it's a small town. It's possible, but yes, there's nothing that I know of that connects them.
Okay. I think that's all cleared up now. Does anybody have any questions about that? I want to make sure that if he can answer any questions that you guys have on it, besides the names, Fiend, just to make sure that it's clear before anybody leaves the live and walks away without the right info. Criminal Network says, you have to remember you work for us, not Michelle after dark or after breakfast. It's just joking around.
I'm sorry, what?
That you work for us and not Michelle after dark. It was a joke.
I said to Jennifer Auger today, in essence, I work to win, and it's winning for Rick. Amy on Case by Case was, asking, sort of outraged, why are we here? And yeah, there's the why are we here, but the real question is, why is Rick Allen there?
It's a great question. Grace, just as long as you know that you're our professor. Just as long as you know that.
If referring to me as a professor will get you nowhere. In fact, it will. I tell my students that at best I'm the senior associate.
CO Mama says that according to ChatGPT, an iPhone 6S with a battery at 4% in 2017 would last a few minutes to 15 minutes if the phone was idle with minimal background activity. It might last closer to 10 to 15 minutes before shutting down. According to ChatGPT. I'm not sure if anybody's aware, but she is a ChatGPT expert. So she has that qualification, according to me in my chat. So.
Well, and interesting that the Cecil search. I mean, why didn't Cecil use ChatGPT?
He used Apple's support.
Is it wireless or not?
And they want you to know it's okay for you to speculate too. Just FYI.
Yeah. I mean, I have my own ideas about what's more likely, what's less likely. But again, I mean, I think I said over on Amy's, it's just me repeating myself again, that whatever story you want to come up with about the horrible thing that happened to those girls, and I got to tell you, I was looking at some phone data today, and it involved messages to Libby, and I was almost in tears. Whatever story you come up with that you like about what happened runs into some pretty hard fact that says it can't be that.
And that's where we were stuck for years.
And the really interesting thing, the really interesting thing is, so McClelland, there was that surety email, you had your chance at trial. If he's got a video of Reese Davis he didn't turn over from 2017, and he's got 6 to 8 letters from Reese Davis that he got in the months leading up to trial that he didn't turn over, then I would say that it is inaccurate to say that the defense had their chance at trial.
If they had all the information, but he won't even say that he's just like, I gave you everything and that's it. Like, who cares? You had your chance to use Reese Davis.
Did he say I gave you everything?
Well, I'm probably paraphrasing, so don't take that for anything. See, this is what happens, Michael.
Well, that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, don't take that. Don't take that as anything. I'd have to go back and actually quote him, and I'm not quoting him. So.
Yeah, I haven't. I just don't remember the exact language of the motion for the hearing. And I think it's still possible we're going to get a hearing, and I think it's more possible we're going to get a hearing on the Reese Davis stuff than on the motion to correct error.
Does anybody in chat remember what he actually said? Because now I'm very curious about, because Sleuthy's saying no, he didn't say that, but I'm thinking he said something like, you had your chance with Reese Davis, you didn't take it, let it go. But he wasn't even quoting what Nick said, so I think it's going to be a tough sell either way. I have Apophis wants to know, is there actually any photos of the back of the purple phone that was depicted at the crime scene? Like, to show that was actually the phone that was found under Abby. Do you happen to have an answer for that?
I have not seen the crime scene photo, so I don't know.
We were talking about that, just the phone ones that Nick put out there.
Well, there's an interesting question that is being looked into, whether the defense even had those pictures. They probably did, but it's being checked on.
And then we had another question.
It would be, I just want to say, it would be, I think, a pretty big deal if it turned out they didn't.
Well, I would think so too. And why aren't they being referred to as any type of exhibit number from the trial, which is what he asked for on the videos, but then goes and creates his own exhibit numbers for the photos? Why doesn't he?
Well, we had exhibit numbers for the exhibits and the 16 exhibits in the motion to correct error, and when he creates the exhibit numbers, they're exhibit numbers for his response to the motion to correct error. That's totally legitimate. And okay. I think the answer is that those crime scene photos were not entered as exhibits at the trial.
If that's what that means, then is they weren't actually exhibits in trial. So nobody during the course of trial or from the prosecutor's side said, hey, these are the photos that you saw that showed you that the phone was wet and dirty. When you had those photos, I don't understand that, I guess.
Would who have had those photos?
Well, the state had the photos. Why wouldn't, when Cecil's on the stand saying that it couldn't have been dirt or water, or I mean, it could have been dirt or water, or even when Eldridge was on the stand during cross, why doesn't he say, have you seen these photos to show that that the phone was wet and dirty and covered in debris?
Yeah, I mean, they could have pulled those pictures up and, marked them up as exhibits in a hurry and yeah, they could have done that. And actually, they could have asked for a brief continuance to get those pictures together, and they could have asked for a brief continuance to, have Cecil actually consult a manual or something instead of Google. I have, yeah, why people did what they did is, kind of speaks for itself, and you can come up with any number of reasons why it was done that way.
I think the big question.
The answer may.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
There's
ahead.
a question about this phone case is that nobody can seem to find this Gryffindor purple phone case in existence.
In existence where? In previous pictures, or?
Well, let's clarify it.
Because I think it is a purple case in the three.
In those photos, yes, but in the other photos, nobody can find a purple Gryffindor phone case, which is what they said she had.
Yeah, and I think there's some. Yeah.
Her phone was pink, red, yellow Gryffindor, but the phone in the crime scene photos is purple.
All I can tell you is that, I mean, I don't think it's a problem for me to quote one of the investigators that is the phone. In other words, that picture is those pictures that were exhibits in the response to the motion to correct error are pictures of the phone Libby had with her. There is no other phone out there. They are not pictures of another phone.
I think that the kerfuffle here then becomes that she had a rose gold iPhone with a Gryffindor phone case.
Well, this was a space gray iPhone, but I think it had the purple Gryffindor case. I don't know about the case because I haven't seen the pictures. But it was the phone that was found was space gray.
So the phone found is space gray in a purple case. And yet they said that her phone was rose gold with a Gryffindor case.
And again, they said, who said and where did they say it?
In court, they said it's rose gold, that she had a rose gold case, or rose gold phone.
Is that what Cecil said?
Now you're going to make me go back and double check exactly. Somebody in chat may actually have a better memory of it than me, but I know her phone was supposed to be rose gold. Now I'm trying to think if it was in court or if it was just like a Patty interview. So somebody in chat, if you happen to remember, please tell me. Otherwise, I'll go back and figure it out, because I know that I was told her phone was rose gold with a Gryffindor case on it. And Gryffindor is yellow and red.
Well, so I thought it was rose gold, and that's why I thought so those drops of water on the phone, condensation, which is really interesting because that condensation, kind of makes you raise an eyebrow. How did that happen? How did that condensation happen if it was under a leg and under a shoe? But when I thought it was rose gold, I thought that was so the condensation. If you zoom in on that one picture, I think it's the first one, Exhibit 9. It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that that's a screen protector on top, and that condensation is on a screen protector. And when I thought it was rose gold, I thought that little white line in the lower right corner was the white of the rose gold case peeking out. Then, when it turned out that it was actually a space gray phone, I want to know what that white peeking out is. And it's not, people have said that's light reflecting from in the photograph. No, it's definitely not that. I don't know what it is, but it's not that. So I just got a message. I didn't realize this dateline is 2 hours.
What is happening? I'm gonna get electrocuted.
Sorry, I was in the chat and hit the wrong thing and kicked myself out. Sorry, Luke, it wasn't the internet connection.
I muted myself.
Oh,
I
you
was
idiot.
over here just talking away. So
Oh my god.
I was like, let me just find one thing at a time. I said, I'm confusing myself trying to look for multiple things at the same time, and I'm not getting anywhere. I said, let me just focus on finding one thing at a time. And then I will do it. So I was on other screens, not even paying attention to the fact that Michael dropped down and I was muted. So there we go. Sleuthy had it under control, though. Even though she's in the shower, she came into the rescue. Thank you, Sleuthy. Okay, so what I was saying...
There are people out live tweeting this live.
Are there really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Sometimes it becomes a disaster up in here. You guys might want to do that. Okay, so I haven't yet found the exact phone. So this is from Precocent that had sent this in the chat. So this is the phone from one of this looks like it's from the Musical.ly, which is now TikTok. But so you can see her phone case, Gryffindor case. It's maroon and yellow. There's the case in a standard picture, and then. So Liberty German Samsung Galaxy tablet, Liberty German iPhone exam, Liberty German's OS triage, tons of other interesting things in the discovery list, but not another mention of a geofence victim too. That's true. Head case, an officially licensed Harry Potter Gryffindor pattern soft gel case. Please note that these cases were released during the 2015 to 2017 period and may no longer be in production. However, you might still find them available through resellers or online marketplaces. Okay, so the timing fits, and then here's one of the photos of the phone that is space gray with a purple case. Did you, Dan? Is it Musical.ly TikTok? Am I wrong? Am I not up on the thing? I thought Musical.ly became TikTok. Am I just out here spreading all kinds of bad info, Fiend? Because that's what I thought was that Musical.ly became TikTok. So here's another picture of Libby with a phone. This is more like an OtterBox type of case. So I have a video of that up on my channel, Indy Cindy says. Okay. Let's see. But that, I mean, I'm gonna find that video where I think it was I have a Apophis says it's down now, but I'm pretty sure I have it downloaded. I typically try to download all the family or interesting interviews, so hopefully I did. Now let me go to Indie Cindy's. But Michael, somebody had a question for you back up here that I want to make sure that gets asked to you, because it was when I was asking if anybody else had questions for you. So maybe while I look for this, you can answer this question if you happen to know the answer about the Evansdale. Like, is there anything that shows how close these people were to Evansdale, or like, is there anything that we know about where they were in Evansdale, or just that they were in Evansdale at that specific time?
I only know this is, you know, a wonderful lesson in epistemology. I know, in quotation marks, they were in Evansdale. I have been told they were in Evansdale. I have seen no actual evidence they were in Evansdale.
Because it's not through phone data or anything like that.
No.
Okay, so Indie Cindy, I'm assuming that since you told me about it, you're gonna let me play it. I don't know if I should do the music because people get pissed off. White carnations. Baby's breath, like flowers. Oh, this is a whole nother rabbit hole. Let me see, this is probably not the right video. Let me go back. Hopefully I'm not muted still. Okay. Wrong video. I got you guys. I got you. Okay, so is it this one? No, she's holding the tablet. Is this a tablet? I think there's another photo. I want to say who this actually has it up. Let me see. A photo where the case looks pink. I think she posted it on her community wall. Let me look. Of course, it's not going to give it to me. Hold on. Why can I not pull her channel up? Yeah, here. This photo where Abby's on the tablet. It kind of looks like a pink case, but in that video, it does kind of look like a purple case. So in that video, Abby is holding two devices and Libby is recording with another device. Is that... So there's three devices, which they say that she has an iPad, a Samsung tablet, and her phone, right?
I don't know. I'm not in on all the devices and what's connected to what. And
Okay.
I thought it was an iPad. I thought it was an iPad that her iPhone was connected to.
In that document that they that they put where in one of his exhibits where he talks about all the evidence that was given over on that specific date, it talks about Libby's Samsung tablet.
Okay. I as always, y'all know more than I do.
No, that's not true. I just happen to know that because Sleuthy and I were working on a spreadsheet for all that info. I just happen to remember that one. That one I happen to remember. So, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of devices going on here, and this just takes me back to the beginning when the whole thing was that Libby went with one of Becky Patty's work phones and not her own phone. We do. We need the fucking transcripts. Okay. Also, so Sleuthy went back and listened to what Andrew Baldwin actually said. And he said, you have what, or said that Nick McClellan had told him in the email. You have what we gave you. So he did say something about that. I wasn't too off, but it doesn't say he gave him everything. You have what we gave you. You had your chance with Reese Davis, and you strategically decided not to call him. You lost. Your guy was convicted. File whatever you want to file.
How crappy. I mean, and really unprofessional. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't throw it around lightly, but after that response to the motion to correct error, it's like, in what world? I mean,
In the world where
you either admit you,
that kind of chronic versus the kind of chronic that is actually the filing. That's the world. Where chronic is
no,
not.
but I mean, you had your chance. I mean, like, how can they make us, if in fact he has the video and from 2017 and didn't turn it over, and if he has something like 6 to 8 letters from Reese Davis, depending on what's in them, how could the defense have made any strategic choice not to call him? They didn't have the information to make a strategic choice.
Right. He just says you have what we gave you. So whatever. Doesn't say where it's at, when he gave it, any of those things. Right.
Well, and that's fine, but I mean, Andy was saying to him, "We don't have these letters. Do you have them? And what about the video?" And the response is, "We have what we gave you." No, the response is, "We gave you those letters, all that we got. There were 4 of them instead of 8. I don't know, whatever the answer is. And we gave you the video." Or the answer is, "We didn't give you those. Sorry. And we're not going to." Or the answer is,
he actually has them.
what?
He won't acknowledge that he ever received them.
Well, he's in an awkward spot for that because Andy's got a witness who will say they did.
All right, and DB sent me the actual clip too, so. Let me see if I can get that up. Okay, so now I found that. Now I'm gonna see if I have that interview about the rose gold phone. Hold on, you guys.
Was convicted, gave you, and Nick, around 3 o'clock the next day, the 13th, which was a Thursday, about 3 o'clock, he says, you have what we gave you, and I'm paraphrasing, but roughly, you had your chance with Reese Davis. You strategically decided not to call him, and you lost. Your guy was convicted, and file whatever you're going to file. And I, whatever, that's fine. I responded back, that's fine. I just want to know the answer to this question. Did you get 8 letters from Reese Davis? And if so, are you saying that you sent them to us? And and those were the 2 questions. And I've not heard back from him since then. And kind of my own independent analysis is, if you didn't get the letters, then you say, I didn't get the letters. And if you did get the letters, you say, I did get the letters. And if you did get the letters and you sent them, then you say, I got the letters and I sent them, and here's the dates that I sent them, and here's how we sent.
Okay, so that's what he said, verbatim. So then nobody can say I messed it up. There's a couple people in chat that have asked, and I don't know if you've seen the question, but what's the timeline? Is there a timeline that you're aware of on when an appeal will be filed or has to be filed? Like, where are we at in that kind of timeline?
So the denial of the motion to correct error happened on, well, she signed the order on the 14th, but it didn't show up on the docket. In Indiana, it's called the CCS, the chronological case summary. And it didn't show up there until 14th. It didn't show up till Tuesday, the 18th. I don't know why there was the delay. The rules were rewritten a few years ago, so the 30 days to file a notice of appeal does not run from the actual date of the order. It actually runs from the date an order shows up on the CCS. So it's 30 days from the 18th, which is the 20th of March. That's the deadline for the notice of appeal.
So
they'll probably file a day or three early.
You say the 20th of March?
20th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 30 days from the 18th of February is the 20th of March.
And that'll be a public document, right? We'll get access to that.
Yeah, but the notice of appeal is a formal document, and it won't be on that docket. There will be a new case number, a new appellate docket.
Okay. Well,
that's kind of what's so strange about Amy Carozos and Stacy and Mark showing up on the CCS and on the trial CCS, because none of them have filed appearances. And I don't know if you all noticed with his request for a hearing on the Reese Davis letters and video, Andy Baldwin filed a new appearance because guess what? He'd been removed again.
He got removed again. And I love how he puts in there, without removing himself, it appears that I've been removed again.
And actually, I think the Indiana Public Defender Council is likely to be looking into counties which, like Carroll County, have a rule that deems public defenders withdrawn after sentencing.
Okay.
Well, it's a chronic issue, because what that does is, there are not a lot of motions to correct error filed in criminal cases. They are occasionally. If you have juror misconduct that you learn about, you have to file a motion to correct error to raise that. So what happens is the 30 days between sentencing and the date a notice of appeal is due is a critical stage. And the rule just unconstitutionally deprives people of their lawyers.
And expects a lawyer to step in and do work with no reason to believe that they're necessarily going to be paid for it, I would imagine, as a public defender.
That's true too, because what happens is the appearance of the public defender is deemed withdrawn, and the public defenders are appointed. At least in that's true in counties where they don't have a public defender's office. In other words, there's a chief public defender, and then so if the court's appointing public defenders, then then their appearance is deemed withdrawn without another appointment, they might not get paid.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I'm hoping Andy, Brad, and Jennifer put in bills for the time they spent, on the motion to correct error and all this other stuff. And I almost hope that, you know, Gull denies it and you know, they go to the Court of Appeals to get paid. I mean, it's outrageous.
So Travis said that the notice of appeal is 1 page. What he says, what the people really want to know, which I didn't know, is when is the opening brief due?
Well, here's the way it goes. So the notice of appeal is filed. The notice of completion of the clerk's record is due 30 days after that. I forget what the deadline on the transcript is, but you can expect that there's going to be an extension on the transcript. So the court reporter, probably Jody Williams, is probably going to ask for an extension on that. But whenever the transcript's filed, the brief will be due in 30 days after that.
Okay.
And I think you can expect that there's going to be a pretty long extension on that. Now, the Court of Appeals, Indiana Court of Appeals, prides itself on being the rocket docket. I don't know what the current stats are. At one point, they were getting opinions out in 6 weeks from briefing, and they have, it's just, as one Court of Appeals judge said to me long ago, we may get them wrong, but we get them wrong fast.
Okay.
So, you know, 30 days. So, you know, let's say they file on the 18th of March, 30 days from that to the clerk's record is going to be the 17th of April. You know, maybe the clerk's record will be filed before that, but let's just say it's the 17th. You know, we're into, so the transcript might be ready by June. Who knows? I have no idea what, you know, the demands on Jody Williams are. I mean, she's a court reporter in a really busy court. One would hope she's getting a start on it now, but.
Oh, she said she is.
Oh, did she? Has she said that?
That's what she told me. Yeah, that was her big focus was going to be on getting the trial transcripts ready. That's why she gave me the delay on, because we have just those partial transcripts for the July-August hearings, and I've requested them since way before trial. And so,
you know, that reasoning makes no sense, because those transcripts have to be prepared for the appeal as well.
she said that too. But she said her main focus is on the trial transcripts.
Well, I mean,
and I'm paraphrasing what she said. I can go back and look at the email, but that's.
I understand. I understand. It's, you know, people get to do work, I guess, in the order they want. But I'm just saying, if people are asking for something and it's paid for,
same time. Yeah.
it's just. It's more it's more senseless obstruction.
So Indiana Girl asked, how much has to be wrong and bad in a case before the appeals court is enough and overturns it without a retrial?
Oh, there's nothing in this case. There's nothing in this case that's gonna. I mean, if they reverse, there can be a retrial. There's nothing. I mean, essentially, I mean, you would have so if you win on sufficiency of the evidence, in other words, the evidence is insufficient as a matter of law to convict somebody, they can't retry you. It's a double jeopardy problem.
Right.
If you had a case, and you know, maybe Travis can think of other circumstances, but I think the main circumstance in which a retrial would be barred is if it were reversed for the destruction of evidence.
Ah. That's interesting.
Well, the idea is that you really can't have a fair trial if the state's destroyed evidence intentionally.
Well, she's just giving them the okay to go ahead and do whatever they want to do.
Well, no, I'm talking about, so if the claim, I'm not talking about, I mean, that would be an interesting hearing. We were talking about the Court of Appeals saying no retrial. And what I'm saying is if one of the claims in the appeal were that the state had destroyed evidence intentionally, and there were evidence of that in the record, and, the trial judge had said, too bad, so sad, too bad, and let the trial go ahead anyway. If the Court of Appeals or the Indiana Supreme Court reversed for that, or the destruction of evidence.
Would that be like deleted interviews?
Well, yeah, but they didn't prove that the deleted interviews were deleted intentionally.
Has anybody gotten the actual devices so that the hashes can be looked at to see when exactly they were overwritten, by whom, and with what? Because if it's like an episode of The Simpsons or something, I'm joking, but like I
Well,
feel
there are
like
no
if you could look into that.
Well, there are no hashes. If there are no files, there are no hashes. So,
well, but the existing data that is there, that it was that whatever it was overwritten with would have metadata that says this is when this was recorded, and I bet it's not, back in 2017.
Yeah, that's probably too late. I thought the more promising, and I think they looked into it. I don't know how far they got with it, but it's certainly going to be part of the post-conviction investigation, I think. I think the more fruitful route is likely to be fruitful is basically to prove that given the software and the hardware, that the accidental over-recording was frankly simply impossible.
Remind me why. I remember coming away with the same impression, but I'm struggling to remember why.
Why it's impossible?
Uh-huh.
It would depend entirely on how the hardware and the software work. I mean, does it in fact continuously record if you don't flip off a switch? What protections against that were built in? I mean, it really is, very setup specific, and I, talk to a tech guy about it, and his opinion was certainly that if it wasn't impossible, it was going to be pretty darn close.
But I guess I struggle with the fact that we have the completely erased, right? There's the 7 days of completely erased because the DVR overwrote it and just kept recording. But then there's like the 63 days of video that's only video because the audio is not there. And then you have the missing videos from Doolin. I mean, like they're not all from the exact same situation. Like how do you prove it was done intentionally if you're not part of it? Besides just saying, this is what they really tried to do, is like circumstantially, you can infer that when you have all of these pieces of information that just happen to be missing, and it all comes, about these particular people, and those are the ones that are all screwed up. How in the world do we not think you did it intentionally?
Well, that was the case they kind of put on, and Gull found that it wasn't intentional. And I got to say, I thought the case they put on, they really tried to get, they really went at it backwards. They tried to get Gull to infer that because the evidence was destroyed, what was on there was exculpatory, and that's not the way it works. You have to. So when when you don't know what the evidence is. So if the state destroys evidence that it knows is exculpatory, intentionally destroys it, then you're in a good place. I mean, you're likely to get no conviction, or you're likely to get a conviction reversed if the judge lets it go ahead. The problem becomes when you don't know what the value of the evidence was. All these interviews were erased. We don't have the notes or reports, and I'll say something about that, repeating myself yet again because I've mentioned this a few times in a minute. So when you don't know what the value of the missing evidence is, you've got to prove the destruction was intentional.
I guess that's my struggle, is that I think you could only infer that it's intentional based on what they actually did. What, which interviews happened to be missing, which interviews happened to be missing just audio. I guess that's my struggle, because I guess I could infer that they're all tied together.
Well, at this point, it's merely a circumstantial case, and I suppose Gull could have inferred intentionality. I think there's a bigger problem. I think Mullen was less than truthful at the suppression hearing, or actually the motion to dismiss, back on March 18th in the afternoon. And I know I've said this before, but he testified that they did not discover that the interviews had been over-recorded until August.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been over-recorded back in February. But he also said that the normal flow of information or flow of investigation was that the people who had done the interviews would attach the video to their reports. In other words, electronically.
Right.
And presumably those reports were written shortly after the interviews were conducted. How is it they didn't notice in August these things had been over-recorded if the videos were attached, when the people who were writing the reports would have noticed there's no video to attach? And secondly, where the hell are the reports? They weren't over-recorded.
Well, they're in the filing cabinets.
I guess Kathy Shank didn't find them.
No, they probably weren't put in a box and put in the desk for her to find, so they're still gone.
They're probably in manila envelopes marked cleared. No, I mean, I just think it's a good question. And then Holman, so Mullen all along has been saying, oh, and we don't have a list of people who've been
yes,
and we don't have a list. Then at trial he says, oh, well, we do have a list. It's across the street. But Holman said in his post-trial interview, I think it was on, I don't know whether it was on TV or whether it was with the Tweedles. But Holman said, I mean, I've seen the transcripts. I think it's Tweedles. Well, we went out and re-interviewed everybody. Well, how did they do that if they didn't have a list?
well, that's when.
And where are the re-interviews?
I mean, he said that at trial too.
Right.
What?
They said
I feel
that
like he said that at trial, that they had redone those interviews, because I remember thinking the same thing. Well, how, if you're saying you don't know who they were?
Okay, I didn't catch that was his testimony at trial too. Yeah, if you don't have a list, how are you doing it? I mean, these people can't keep their story straight. I mean, they really can't.
And there's also that one piece of video that he very clearly is lying about with the matter of Miranda, where he's like, oh, I didn't record it first and then I had to walk back out. But like, if you look at the video, the way he described it is clearly not what's happening. Like, they just got rid of the beginning of that video.
Well, I don't think there's a look. I don't think there's a problem. Even if he didn't give Rick his Miranda warnings, I mean, if Rick could walk out of there, at least, I mean, the test is an objective one. Would a reasonable person, under the circumstances, feel free to leave?
Oh, I'm not bringing up Miranda as the issue itself, but rather there is evidence within the trial of them disappearing video, and based on the fact that he's saying I had to walk out and restart it and come back in, but you can, in the part of the video that they did produce, that is not what happened. So it appears, just looking at the evidence itself, that they simply hacked off the beginning of that because of the Miranda issue, whether it would have mattered or not. They seem to be misrepresenting why this portion of the video doesn't exist. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, what? Because there's something awkward for them at the beginning.
Well, yeah, he's saying that he walked in and he thought it was recording because he could see the little red light, but it wasn't, and so he had to walk out of the room and start recording and then come back in. But the beginning of the video isn't him walking back in; it just picks up middle of the interview.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty suspicious. I mean, I don't know what it means. I don't know what was cut. I don't know what's missing. If it's, the Miranda warnings are missing or the lack of Miranda warnings is missing. I just don't know.
It was the little bit. It was the little bit of video that came up during the Miranda portion of the questioning. Like, that's why they were talking about it, but it was just his description of how and why this was recorded the way that it was, not matching the content of the video. So it's really not about Miranda. It's about the vanishing evidence. There's at least one piece of vanished evidence that they clearly seem to be misrepresenting how that happened. And you can actually see it by looking at the video.
So clarify for me, and I'm sorry, my single cell is often slow. How did he represent that it disappeared, and why is that misrepresentation?
He said that it didn't exist, essentially, and that, like, I thought I recorded it, went in and started interviewing him, walked back out when I realized it wasn't recording, and started. So if that happened in reality that way, you would expect to see the video start with him walking into the room because he just started the recording. But that's not what happens. The video just starts with him sitting there talking to Richard Allen at the table.
Yeah. Was he crossed about that?
No, but I have heard Baldwin mention it in one of the post-trial interviews that he did. He mentions that specific piece of video and the fact that the video starts with him just sitting at the table talking to Richard Allen. It's where the way he's describing how the video came to be recorded, what you would expect to see is Richard Allen sitting there by himself and then Holman walking into the room having just started the recording.
Yeah, it would be interesting to look at the written report, or I don't know if Rick signed a Miranda form or not.
So, like, I don't know if he was Mirandized or if he wasn't, or what reason they would have had to potentially hack off the beginning portion of that interview. I don't know. Like you were saying, you don't know what's there because it's not there. But the evidence itself does seem to suggest that it did not start recording when or in the way that he described it.
Where I'm going with this is there a piece of paper that has a time on it that would indicate the difference between the time that video started and the time that, how much time was there? For instance, I've got a case where the cops have what they think what they represent as a continuous, it's not, this is from a long time ago, and so it's all typed, right?
Mhm.
But it's supposed to be, it represents itself as a continuous statement. And in fact, the Miranda waiver is signed 8 minutes into the, at least by the time on the Miranda waiver, it is signed 8 minutes into the interview. There is no interruption. There's no mention of it in the interview. That interview is not a continuous statement. And so what I'm saying is, is there a piece of paper there about, somebody wrote down on something, Miranda waiver, whatever, interview started at such and such a time. Usually there are reports like that. And so I don't know what I don't know what Holman's report with the, recording is. I also don't know. You'd have to ask Rick, and I mean, I guess Kathy, at least at the beginning, was someplace else being interviewed herself. You'd have to ask Rick about the sequence of events, and I haven't spoken with him, and I don't know what Andy or Brad talked to him about, and I don't know whether they really didn't show up for about a month, and I don't know whether Rick even would have remembered
Yeah.
exactly what happened a month later. So
If
I mean,
there was any
imagine
paperwork, if there was any paperwork to show it, what made me think of it is as an example of this disappearing evidence. Like, it makes the argument about they are tampering with this evidence more compelling if you have this, at least one example of, well, here, this video, they clearly disappeared and it was intentional, seemingly, because they're misrepresenting it.
Oh,
Well-
there's a lot. There's plenty of shady stuff to go around.
So Indy Cindy said that Baldwin said there is not a signed Miranda. From my
No.
memory, that there is, the Miranda was read in the interview with Liggett and Mullen.
He says
And
he
then-
reminded him of,
No,
Holman reminded him of his Miranda.
Right. And then Holman said, "You remember your Miranda from talking with Liggett and Mullen?" And he was like, "Yeah," or whatever. So, but apparently Andy said there's no sign. There's nothing signed. So it's just whatever's recorded on that first interview.
Well, by the way, I mean, the courts don't do this, but there is so cops Mirandize pretty much everybody these days, and it's funny. It runs into the test. I think it runs into the test of, would a reasonable person feel free to leave? If somebody gives me a Miranda waiver. A Miranda waiver is about what? It is about waiving your right to basically refuse a custodial interrogation. And for me, if a cop is giving me a Miranda waiver, to me, that means I'm under friggin' arrest.
Yeah, I would think so too. I'm not signing shit.
I feel like most people.
Well, no,
honestly,
I'm making a different point. It's not about I'm not signing. I wouldn't sign it anyway. My
But you
point
don't
is
feel
that
you can leave, right?
I would not feel free to leave.
That's what I was just about to say. I don't think most people who haven't had a ton of interaction with the police, or maybe even a lot of the ones who have had, I don't think if a police officer walked up and spoke to you on the sidewalk about the weather, most people would feel like they could just turn around. Like, if you're speaking to a cop who is asking you questions, I think most people feel like they have to stand there and answer the questions in almost any interaction with the police.
So here's sort of the catch-22 about that, and that is I mean, you are in fact free to turn around and walk away,
100%.
but some courts, but between being arrested and nothing and being able to walk away, there is a thing called reasonable suspicion, not probable cause to arrest you, where the police are allowed to detain you briefly to inquire further into the circumstances that give them reasonable suspicion that something is up. And so the catch-22 is that if a cop starts talking to you about the weather and you walk away, arguably that gives them reasonable suspicion to,
Right.
to stop you and question you.
Yeah, no, totally. But I do think that like this question of does the person being questioned perceive that they are in custody or not? I feel like under most circumstances, and I'm being hyperbolic with the weather talk, but in most circumstances where a person is being asked a question by the police, even if they are totally free to leave, I don't think people feel like they're free to leave. I think that we're underestimating the intimidation that actually exists even under low pressure circumstances where you're interacting with the police. And by we, I mean
right.
like the law.
Yeah, the law probably does, but again, at least, and so what the person subjectively believes doesn't matter, just as it doesn't matter what the cop subjectively thinks doesn't matter. It is, courts say, an objective test. Would a reasonable person feel free to leave? So the courts then are free to play arbiter of what a reasonable person is.
Right, and that's actually the same thing I'm arguing. So sure.
No, I get.
But what constitutes reasonable? Because what I'm proposing is that if most people think it, that's probably reasonable. And I think most people feel like they're in custody if they're being questioned most of the time. Under most circumstances, they're going to feel like they're not free to leave.
Well, and that's what that would be an interesting, I've never seen it done, but it would be a really interesting litigation strategy, right? You have a situation where somebody's, in Rick Allen's situation, they don't get their Miranda warning, and they're interrogated, and they spill the beans, or some beans. I mean, that's the other thing about I'm going to digress here for a minute. The stuff that Holman characterized as incriminating that Rick said is just ridiculous.
He bristled.
Well, I wasn't thinking that so much as the what kind of a good person kills two girls.
Oh yeah,
you've been telling him you're accusing him of this thing, and then you say, I don't think you're a bad guy, and he's like, well, what kind of fucking good guy does what you're telling me I did? It's a perfectly reasonable thing to say.
Yes, but Holman characterized that as incriminating.
I knew when I read it they were going to do that. Instantly, I was like, oh, they're going to make hay out of that.
But anyway, go back to the litigation strategy. Imagine at the suppression hearing, in front of a judge, you call, so you've got a video of this, right? And you have 20 witnesses, just people randomly picked up off the street to whom you've shown the video. And you ask them, would you feel free to leave under these circumstances? And try to establish by that kind of testimony what a reasonable person would have thought. As a matter of fact, not as a matter of some judge just sitting there and making up a reasonable person in their head.
Oh yeah, you could take 100 people and just ask them, and most of them are going to tell you, no, I would not be comfortable to leave. Most of us, even if a cop is asking us about the weather, we're not going to feel comfortable to leave. We're going to stay by the cop until the cop is done talking to us.
You can see it in our interactions with people all of the time. This is why people answer questions to the police. It's why they allow their cars to be searched. It's why we let cops do all kinds of stuff that we don't necessarily have to agree to in the moment, because we don't feel like we actually can assert our rights in those circumstances. It feels like I have to say yes to this, even if that's not objectively true.
Well, and McClellan in one of his response motions back in the day had stated that it was just an interview. It wasn't even an interrogation. He didn't actually even have to read him his rights. It wasn't important for him to be read his rights during that interview, which now Holman refers to as his accidental interrogation.
Well, we know it wasn't accidental that got him in. I mean, we know two people, the Tweedles and Doug Carter, knew 2 days ahead of time that he was going to be arrested.
True. We also know that Holman in his interview now says that he brought his laptop in because there was going to be people who were going to be messaging him with like specific questions to ask, like as they were watching the interview go down, and that's how he finds out that the camera wasn't working, and yes, he has to step out and then come back. So it was all pre-planned.
Well, and to go back to the missing bit, it would be good. It could have been a good thing. Again, I'm not Brad, Andy, or Jennifer, but it would have been a good thing to get the people, find out who the people were who were watching on camera and audio, and get them in, or depose them and find out what the hell happened in there. And depose, if there were 3 or 4 of them, depose them one after the other, so they don't have a chance to talk to each other.
So people are asking, so Carter and MS knew 2 days before the 26th being the 24th. How do we know that?
We know that from, Doug Carter, we know out of his own mouth. He said in one of his post-trial interviews that Nick McClellan called him up in Barcelona to tell him there was going to be an arrest in 2 days, I think. Maybe it was only soon, but there was going to be an arrest. And I think the Tweedles, I think the Tweedles had dropped the podcast up. I mean, I'm just repeating hearsay on this. I think somebody told me, they said something about there being an arrest on, I think it was on the 26th, on the 24th.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't know if that's on a recent one. I haven't listened to them for I don't even know how long now. So
no, I think that was back then.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
I don't know. These sleuths would find out quick.
That's wild, because it doesn't read as planned when you. I mean, I haven't watched the video, obviously, but it's been relayed to me like it has everybody, and it sounds very much like Rick Allen pissed Holman off, and in a rash decision, he spontaneously arrested him. Like he says, if you have all that evidence, then arrest me. And it seems like he gets pissed and is like, fine. And then they start scrambling to make sense of that. But I suppose it's possible
and it might be a good acting job.
Mm-hmm.
And it also might be they were going to do it anyway, and then it did piss him off, and that was the moment he just did it.
Right. It may not have been planned for that precise moment. And like I said, to be fair, I haven't seen the video, so and maybe it's not that great an acting job if I actually were to watch it.
Yeah, I haven't seen. Nobody's seen it. I'm hoping the defense will release the exhibits that aren't sealed. I mean, I just hope they will.
Speaking of which, I don't know, I'm not asking if you've seen it necessarily, but has someone on the defense side seen this trail cam footage that apparently exists?
There's a lot of trail cam footage. It's
people. There's apparently one or more people walking past the trail cam at a time on the night of the 13th when people should not have been walking by there. And they're like, oh yeah, that was like a firefighter or something.
Yeah, I remember that from trial.
Yeah, I think they saw the firefighter trail cam thing.
Okay. I just didn't know if we were just taking their word for who it was and that it was, benign. Since we hadn't seen it or heard anything about it, I've been dying to know if somebody on the defense side has actually seen that.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I don't know enough about the locations of the trail cams, and I don't know. Again, for the most part, with exceptions, what I have seen was what was necessary to do the filings that have happened since the trial,
Mhm.
since the,
When you
um,
say, Michael, that there's a lot of trail cam footage, what do you
I
mean by
think that
that?
I think there are a lot of. So I think so. It's not trail cam footage. The trail cams take stills.
Okay,
I
Right,
mean, they're
yeah.
triggered. They're triggered.
correct.
Um, and I think there are a fair number. I think there's a fair number. There's a fair number of trail cam pics. I don't
There
know
a
what that number is, but
fair
you
number
know,
of
I
trail
think
cams,
it's.
or just
I think it's
pics from cam?
more than 10, less than 20, or something like that.
And this is going to be a motion activated thing where it's either a deer or a person or whatever that's triggering it to snap that image, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's my understanding. Again, I haven't seen it, so I don't. I don't.
Okay.
So
But
just for clarification purposes, would this be multiple trail cams that have this 10 less than 20 pics, or would this be a trail cam that has more than 10 less than 20
oh
pics?
no, it's more than one. I mean, they were around. I mean, I know Logan had a couple or three. Um, might have had more. I think the Webbers had some because they were so concerned about people being on their property. Um, those are the ones I know about. I don't think the Lieberts had any. I don't know whether the Mears had any, but they're on the other side of the road. But it would be interesting if they did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they have their property is also on the other side of the road. They like that part of that farmland right there is owned by the Mears as well. So they have property on both sides of 300 North.
What property do they have on the west side?
I can send you the map. You can look up all the properties and who owns them, and who owned it. You can go back and look at who owned them at that time too.
I thought all the Mears property was on the east side of 300.
No, they have some on the south side. I guess I would north side and south side.
By the way, Michael, early on after the trial, you had raised a question of all of the different addresses that could have been driven to in about 7 minutes. And I got on, I wrote a script that pulled from an open AI that you can access and wrote a query that would search each address that is within a 2 to 4 mile drive from that location. And I have a list of addresses which I intended to cross-reference with people who are involved, various names, to see who those are. Would you like for me to send you that, or did you ever get your answer to that question, all the different potential addresses? Because I have literally an address for every single house that is, or even business address that is a 2 mile to 4 mile drive from the crime scene.
Yeah, sure, but here's the deal. I mean, I know of one place that I've looked at that's like 3.3 miles, but at least, on Cecil, not Google anymore, it's Cecil, everybody. Um, on Cecil, even though it's only 3.3 miles, Google has it as a 9-minute drive. And that's because of windiness and stuff. But yeah, sure. I mean, send it. I mean, obviously everybody was focused. I think, Michelle especially was focused on, Westfall's house being 7 minutes away.
Yeah, we did that one when we were doing all the steps and the miles for how far it would be.
Didn't the 7 minutes come from something in the cell phone data though? And then they said, and this address happens to be 7 minutes away.
So
Or
here's what here's what it came from. It was a combination of, so I posited, given if you were coming out the private drive, which is what this, abduction theory depends on. Girls don't go across the creek with somebody, but instead they're hustled into a van or voluntarily get into I'm sorry, I used the word van. Doesn't have to be a van.
vehicle.
They're hustled. They're in some sort of car, vehicle. I posited that given the nature of the drive and sort of the roads back there, that maybe you could average something like 25 miles an hour. And if you average 25 miles an hour, and you got 7 minutes, I think it came out that you can go, you have 7 minutes, it came out you can go about 3 miles. That's where the 3 miles came from.
Where did the 7 minutes come from?
The 7 minutes come from the no movement in the phone between 2:18 and 2:25.
Right. Okay. So that's what I was talking about. And then that matched up with a particular address being about a 7-minute drive away. And you're totally right. The mileage doesn't necessarily equate to minutes. So that's why I pulled it in a range of 2 to 4 minutes. But I can email it to you, or if there are different parameters, I can rewrite the script and pull it. It's actually really quick, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it'd be very interesting. And I'll think about how that, might play into the post-conviction investigation, which,
Is there an email address that I can send that to, or?
Yeah, M. Osbrook, MAUSBROOK, all one word, no underlines, @gmail.com. It's out there in public. I just doxed myself. It's on the roll of attorneys. It's on every pleading. It's super secret. It's super secret.
Yeah, I'll send that over. And if there are other different pieces of data that are similar but different, I can write the scripts up differently and pull them. So if there's something similar like that you need, feel free to ask. I can write them pretty quickly.
Thank you so much. And thanks. It's a huge group effort, and I'm really disappointed that the prop seems to have written me off. I only disagree with him about one thing. It's a big thing, but I disagree with him about it on some kind of. I guess he's saying I'm pretending to do work behind the scenes. I guess I wish it were only pretense.
Right. Okay, so real quick before I want to switch out the screens, but Michael, I want to make sure that you've seen that, because she paused it on the Dateline on Monica Walla. I said pink hair. Some people say it's purple, but I want to make sure you see that before I switch the screen out.
That's very a chocolate cherry, 100%.
Chocolate cherry.
It's the brand Faria. I would bet my life on it. No, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'm probably right.
Yeah, it's kind of the modern version of henna. Boy, is that awful. Jesus.
That's what she would. This is her when she's going to testify, Michael.
I understand. I mean, geez. I'm sorry. I mean, I just like, she's not a bad looking woman. And it's just like what people do to uglify themselves is amazing.
Sometimes. All right, so let me show you this real quick then too. So, and everybody in chat's telling Erica like you're a badass, which I think we know at this point. Oh shoot, I just totally screwed that up. Don't you leave? Don't you go anywhere, Erica?
I just stopped sharing now.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure he saw that beforehand. So here is So here's Mears on the north side of 300 North, right? So Mears.
Oh,
So
okay. I see. Yeah. Basically
Mears,
goes almost up to the cemetery.
and then here, so down here,
Okay.
this whole area is also Mears. And then you have the cemetery, and then you have Ron Logan's.
So the Mears the so-called Mears entrance to the trail actually does cross Mears property.
Correct.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And that's
That's why,
closed off now.
right? You can't even park there anymore. They put that gate thing up. So yeah. So then you have this is all Mears over here. Mears owns a ton of shit. Their property's huge. And
Yeah,
then
no, I know.
And then the Webbers actually own a ton of shit too. So this is all Mears down here. That's Mears. This is Logan. So if you're going like on the north side of the bridge over to where like they would have been walking that one trail, that's all Mears. This is Mears. This is all Logan. Oh, I don't know. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know how I did that. Logan. And then over here you have all tons and tons of Weber.
So, okay, yeah.
The color is called Ho Red. You guys are terrible. You guys are terrible. I'll go with Erica's. What was it? Black cherry.
Chocolate cherry, and I'm not making fun of it. I had it. That's why I'm so familiar.
You're like, I know what it is. I like chocolate.
And it looks great on some. It looks great on some people. I just don't think it looks great on her. At least the way she's done it doesn't look great on her. I mean, that's all I'm saying. It's not. She doesn't make her a bad person.
Yeah. So I have a couple
I
more
was
messages.
like 13 at the time, to be fair, but
who said they sent me something on Twitter? Hold on. Postpunk Mama, you sent me something on Twitter? Okay, hold on. I'm going to show you this other clip of Holman real quick. So 1 second there, because somebody sent me this too for you guys. This is all stuff that's being sent while these conversations are happening. So I just want to make sure I show you guys what I'm getting. Where did Holman go? There he is.
20 seconds later. So I went back in and started the interview. But yeah, before I did not officially read him his Miranda rights because he was not in custody. I basically told him that he was free to go, and we were here to discuss the items that we took and some of the items that we were going to return and some of the test results. And I asked him, do you remember being interviewed a couple days ago by Investigator Mullen and Detective Liggett? And he said, yes. I said, so you're aware of your Miranda warnings? And he said, yeah. I said, that door's not locked. You're free to go at any time. You're free to stop answering questions. So I didn't officially read him Miranda warnings, but I made sure that he was aware. And yeah, unfortunately, that was not caught on the recording system.
Yeah. And yeah, it would be nice to know what was. So there are two things, I guess, that would be nice to know. One, what was not caught, and I guess the claim is that stuff was actually cut out, because if he did leave and had to return, and it doesn't start, and to turn it on to start the recording had to come back, then somebody, yeah, you're quite right. Somebody had to intentionally remove part of the recording.
right. And so that's what I was saying. Like, if you were trying to make the argument, either in a motion or, whatever the case may be, that all of this other missing evidence you should infer that there's some intentionality there. This is a piece of evidence that suggests that, well, we know of one where there appears to definitely be intentionality.
Yeah, and they could have made that point. It's an excellent point, and I apologize for being so slow catching up to your really excellent point.
Aw. Okay, and then this is the clip from Murder Sheets episode, the Tweedles.
So I guess the story for
I don't know if you can hear that, though.
started a couple of days ago when a source we consider incredibly reliable let us know that an arrest had been made.
Or someone had been detained, something was happening, but we had basically no other information other than that.
No name, no further details. And even though this source, again, has been wonderful for us and is incredibly reliable, it's just one source.
Yeah, we can't.
So I guess the story.
I don't know the date of it, though. Is there... Postpunk Mama, what's the date of this episode? Because, I mean, technically, they could have... If it's from the 28th... no, that one's totally fair use. The date of the episode... They're saying... Because he doesn't technically get arrested until the 28th, even though I think that's...
No. He gets technically arrested on the 26th.
Right, but not on the... right, now that's actually changed officially. But it was... The official arrest was the 28th, right? Because they originally said that he was just being detained the 26th.
No,
And
that's
now-
an arrest. That's an arrest. He was charged on the 28th.
Okay.
Excuse me.
10/27/2020. I don't know what it is. So if you guys have a date, you can see it on the clip when I scroll. Okay, hold on. Let me go back over here and see. You can see it on the clip. This is 12/20/2024. Is that what you're talking about? Or when you scroll? Okay.
Started
Hold
a
on.
couple of days ago when source again.
Oh, here it is. Oh, there you go, Michael. There you go. There's the date. October 28th, 2022. So this officially started a couple days ago, which would be the 26th, right? So I don't know.
Well,
You can take
26 was when he was arrested. My understanding was they said something. They
The
said something
24th.
a couple days. They said something 24th or so, 24th, 25th, that they knew an arrest was coming. If they didn't, then bad on me, and I will burn my source if I can ever source for that information if I can ever remember what it was.
Oh, that's fine. There might be something else. I'm just saying. So the episode on the 28th, they're saying this started a few days ago. Here, hold on.
So I guess the story for us started a couple of days ago when a source we consider incredibly reliable let us know that an arrest had been made.
Or someone had been detained, something was happening, but we had basically no other information.
An arrest or been detained. Something was happening, but we didn't know anything else. So that could still go the 20s. I don't know if there could be the person who told you, Michael, could have a completely different clip. This is just what we're looking at right now. So
Sure. I frankly, well, we know Doug Carter knew ahead of time, for sure,
In the
out of his own mouth.
family, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Miku? Miku's headphones?
Miku's headphones.
Yeah, he just said, or they just said in the chat, that on the 24th, the family were told, and he says, if I recall, and now that they mention that, I do recall hearing that too.
I do recall hearing that too. That the arrest was coming. That they were told at the beginning of the week, like on Tuesday. I think they said on Tuesday.
Fascinating. Well, I haven't looked at it. Well, here's the thing about the abduction by vehicle theory, and that is, I mean, I've got to go look at it, but if the girls were driven out at something like during those 7 minutes between 2:18 and 2:25, I got to go look at the security camera footage again, but I just don't think there's a car. I don't think there's a car coming out there.
A car coming out of where?
Out of the private drive, there might be a car. So there's a back way out of the Webbers, but that's also incredibly dangerous because you're down there. You have to go straight through the Webbers property to do that, and you don't know if anybody's home, and they're going to see you if they are home, if somebody is home.
Unless you know that Kay Weber vacations or has a summer home in Arizona where she doesn't stay on her property at that time of year.
Yeah, and you might, and that's true. And you might not know that. Yes, I mean, everything's possible. I'm just saying, for me, like if you're trying to abduct a couple people driving right past somebody's house through their driveway, right by the windows, kind of not the way I'd be going.
True.
But that security camera also picks up the traffic on 252 as well as the traffic on 625. So I'm just going to have to go look at that security camera video for that time frame again and see what's there.
Yeah, I was just about to ask a question I know you don't know the answer to, which is what were the times that a car last or would next pass that security camera? I know you don't know.
I don't know what the next one was, but at the moment I'm working on getting a blow up of it to see if we can identify the car. There is a car that turns around, drives in, so it comes down 625 from 100, drives down 625, goes partially into the private drive, probably stops at about the Lieberts at 2:08, and then comes out just a moment or two later.
At 2:08 p.m.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we don't know whose car that is.
No, I'm trying to get a blow up. It's funny. It's a small black car, I think, but the original of the security cam video is hard to judge, and somebody did a really great job blowing that up for the van video exhibits. I mean that white van was, and that blow up was pretty distinctive, right?
Yes.
Yeah, probably aided substantially by the fact that it's white. It's much easier to make out.
But it will also be interesting to look at. If this is a black car, it will also, if I have it right, it's a black smallish car. It will be interesting to see if it is identifiable, possibly as a Ford Focus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So since we have this footage from the Sandifer area or the Sandifer's old house, do we not see anything about when Teresa Liebert leaves with her husband where she would have seen this random dude?
We also have not looked at the 8 a.m. the early morning video. And as I've said in a few places, I was a little surprised that she testified at trial that she saw a mailbox guy at 8:30 in the morning, because I had always heard from extremely reliable sources, to quote the Tweedles, an extremely reliable source, that Kay Weber and her husband were going out at 12:30 or 1, and it was on their way out that they saw mailbox guy, not on their way back from breakfast. But that was her testimony, so got to look at the video. And the reason I have to look at the video is mailbox guy. Think about it for a minute.
Did they preserve the entire day of video?
You accidentally said Weber's, so I was just.
There's a lot.
It's the Lieberts.
Did I say Weber? I meant Teresa. The Liebert. I meant Teresa Liebert.
I knew you did.
And And the reason we got to look at that video is that, like, nobody walks to those mailboxes.
So there is
Somebody had to have been dropped off.
So I'm curious if
maybe
there's any
picked
other
up at
cars
2:08.
that morning then.
I'm sorry, what?
So I'm curious then if there's any other cars like earlier in that morning around the time frame that she testified to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's what I think. I hope that's what I was saying. That have to look at the video from that time.
Okay.
And the other thing, I'm really wondering if it's out there. Is there Hoosier Harvest Store video from 4:30 in the morning and after?
Well, I'm really confused on the whole Hoosier Harvest Store situation anyway, because it seems that there was a conundrum of whether they even got the footage or not, because he only took pictures of the footage. And then later on, he says he got the footage, but he didn't have the footage.
Well, they only put the picture on. No, they do. No, there is the footage, but it's crap and blurred. And apparently, I wasn't at the trial, but by all accounts, the picture claimed to be Rick's car is just a black blob.
Well, then how do you see that it has the daylight? There, you can see sunshine through them, through the wheels.
Well, you might be able to see the light, but I mean, I think there's even a question of whether you can tell from the shape that it's a Ford Focus.
So then the question becomes:
Look, we've got. No, go ahead.
I was going to say the question becomes: this black car that you can see going on 625, can you see daylight? Can you see the sunshine through the wheels?
I'm almost certain. I'm almost certain, even in the blown-up version, that won't be possible.
Oh, okay. Just wondered.
Um,
You can always interpolate it. I'm kidding.
well, enhanced and stabilized.
I feel like they didn't go back and get that Hoosier Harvest Store video until years later. The way he testified, he did not take the footage that day. I don't think they went back. I think that the FBI might have got the video. I don't think that he got the video.
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing that would be also incredibly nice to have, and I'm guessing the FBI has it, is any phone dump of Ron Logan's.
Yeah. Well, that's a question for the too, is what happened with all the TUI requests? I mean, Ajay was brought on originally to do all these TUI requests, and then we only ever hear about the one FBI guy who is, in Texas. That's the only guy who gets brought up at trial. So is all of that third party that just wasn't able to be brought in, or what were all the TUI requests for then?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but certainly given recent developments, I mean, I would have thought that. Here's what I would have thought. I would have thought that even if the FBI dumped the phone, that the unified cabal would have gotten it from the FBI.
Well, that's what
I would think as they were.
Doug Carter testified that he told the FBI to give him everything they had. Like, we don't want you on here anymore, so give us all your stuff back, or give us all the stuff back, or whatever.
Yeah, they're definitely not doing that.
Well, no, I mean, they might have. Look, we have some evidence that not everything's been turned over. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. The FBI
Andy Baldwin pointed out that. No, but what I'm saying is that if Doug Carter said to the FBI, "Give us everything you've got," and the FBI did that, then I know the defense doesn't have a Logan phone dump. So if the FBI did a Logan phone dump and they gave everything they had to the unified cabal, then they haven't turned over the Logan phone dump.
Right, right. I see what you're saying. No, what I was saying was that Doug Carter made it out like give us all of the evidence back, like so that you don't have it. Not like I agree they would give it to the local police, but they're not going to not keep it for themselves. So they would
Oh
still
yeah, oh
have
of
it.
course. Well, not only would they have it, they'd have a record of what I'm almost certain they'd have a record of what they'd turned over to local law enforcement or ISP.
Yeah, I would certainly think so.
The list of things to look into is quite long,
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
but you know, the focus now for at least, you know, the people who are pretending to do a lot of work behind the scenes, the focus now is on basically developing information that is so important and so compelling that it makes suspending the appeal to go straight to post-conviction worth it.
So skipping direct appeal.
You don't skip it. What you do is you ask the Court of Appeals to suspend the direct appeal so you can pursue a state post-conviction petition. And then if you're not successful in the post-conviction petition, you can bring up all the issues that you could have raised in the direct appeal, plus the issues that come out of the post-conviction case.
What's the
Simultaneously.
downside to that then? And the reason I ask it that way is because you said to make sort of fast forwarding to post conviction worth it. So what would you be losing by skipping straight to post conviction appeal?
What would make it worth it is something that gets Rick Allen out of prison faster.
No, I mean, when you say to make it worth it, I took that to mean that you'd be losing something if you did it that way. So we needed something good to make it worth it.
Well, because making it worth it, if it turns into a long post-conviction investigation, then the direct appeal would take less time than the post-conviction case.
Got it.
Basically,
gotcha.
the idea is, you know, to find something that essentially busts the case open, or at least is so compelling that showing that Rick is innocent, even if you can't prove who is guilty, that, you know, you don't want to wait for the, you know, my guess is a direct appeal won't be decided, you know, through transfer. I mean, it's going to go to the Indiana Supreme Court, whoever wins. And I mean, Court of Appeals reverses, I guarantee you the state will ask for transfer from the Supreme Court. And that's going to be 30 days and 30 days, and then however long it takes for them to, well, plus another 15. So that's 75, plus however long it takes them to decide. You know, my guess is that the direct appeal won't be over till the end of 2026.
Gosh.
Maybe a little earlier.
It just
You
feels
know, Kara might give you a better. Kara Winnicky might give you a better direct estimate. I basically spend most of my time in federal court beating up on state courts, so I don't do all that much in state court. But that's my take. I mean, I do some, don't get me wrong. I ghostwrite motions.
I ghostwrite.
Um, but yeah, and the other thing is, I gotta say, when I say the end of 2026, Gull is up for re-election in 2026. Um, I've got some pretty good evidence from cases past that the appellate courts pay attention to that stuff and actually wait with decisions until things like elections are over.
That's good.
So even if this thing could be decided in September of 2026, it might be held until late November.
Travis wants me to ask you if you can do that wacky straight to post conviction process with appointed counsel, or is that something you have to have retained counsel to do that?
Well, here's the deal. In general, the state PD's office, which handles post-conviction work for indigent people, poor people, people who don't have money for private post-conviction lawyers, generally they don't do these Davis petition cases. They might make an exception here, but we're looking at, we think we have some, we think we might have some very interesting people interested in taking this on, and including the investigation. So, we're working on that. Hopeful it's going to pan out, and if it isn't, the private army is just going to have to soldier on its own, and it's very hard. It's very hard to do without subpoena power, without a case.
So Travis says because post-conviction counsel is handled by different court-appointed attorneys, the Indiana Defender's Office handles post-conviction. Okay.
Yeah, there's a central office of about 40 pretty amazing lawyers, and all is pretty much all they do. They do it, but pretty much all they do is state post-conviction work for indigent prisoners.
Okay.
And we might be able to convince them to take it if we've got something good enough. The other thing is so two of the lawyers in the state PD's office are adjunct professors at the McKinney School of Law in Indianapolis, and they run the wrongful conviction clinic there. And so there's that hook, and the wrongful conviction clinic is hooked up with, in part, the new Indiana Innocence Project that's in Indianapolis. So there's a chance, this might be a good case for them if we can come up with something interesting enough for them to take on.
But you have to be able to bring them something that makes it worth their time too.
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of post-conviction work to be done in this case, and there are 2 or 3 things that are sort of at the top of my list that can be pursued without subpoena power. That it's investigation, so you never know what the answer you're going to get, right? You don't know whether it's going to be helpful or not. But there are 2 or 3 things that are such that if we were to get the right answer, it would be case altering.
It would be huge. So how do we? How does anybody go about getting these other hairs tested that they're just waiting on new technology to come about? Like, how does that not play into anything with this appeal or getting a new trial or anything along those lines? I mean, there's like unknown DNA that they're just like, yeah, we have it. We're just going to wait and see if technology, in the future can tell us whose it is.
Yeah, and someone suggested it, and I hadn't thought of it, but also sure would be interesting to find out if what's up with those animal hairs, right?
Right.
Especially in light of Logan's
Reese
alleged
saying that they
confession.
were, yeah, that they went to the barn to look at the animals. That it's so the way that confession just fits in ways that he couldn't possibly have anticipated.
Yeah, no, that's 2017. I mean, that whatever he says now, I mean, the 2017 thing has pretty incredible legs, which is one reason we had to pack it into the motion to correct error, even if not to get any result from Gull, just to get those facts in front of the Court of Appeals.
So can the appellate attorneys get the right to have these things tested on their own?
No, that's not what appeals are for.
What about like an innocence project?
Well, without a case, you'd probably have to have the agreement of the, you don't have subpoena power, so you'd have to have the agreement of the state aid, probably, the prosecution, probably.
How do you get subpoena power?
I don't. By filing a post-conviction case. Now,
okay.
And the other thing is you have to be careful about. You only get one of those, and so that's the other. And so when I say it has to be worth it, I mean, you get one post-conviction case, and you've got to raise all your claims, and there are a ton of claims. And
that's it. That's the question that I was asking was what's the downside? And that's it. You get one shot.
You only get one shot at it.
So, but the idea is to maybe, if we're lucky and work hard enough, pretend hard enough to be doing stuff behind the scenes, come up with something that, yeah.
So Nick McClelland's response saying that all of that stuff was not that you filed in the motion to correct errors was not new evidence. Does that make it something that needs to be handled during direct appeal?
Yeah, they can certainly. So yeah, I think everything except. I mean, they could include Stacey Eldridge's affidavit too, but the top three things are teed up. So the chronic claim on the safekeeping order, the van video, and the Napoli claim that McClelland didn't correct testimony that he knew was false, and arguably the Reese Davis stuff too. If they're treated as so the Reese Davis thing is newly discovered evidence in a really strange way, and that is, there's been this whole.
There's more.
It turns out what?
I said the fact that it turns out that there's more of it.
No, that's kind of separate, because that's kind of post motion to correct error. I don't think anything that happens now is likely to directly affect the appeal, but we got to get on the record. I mean, that's why Andy Baldwin asked for the hearing, I think. We got to get on the record what McClelland's position is about these letters and the video.
So what makes it newly discovered in a weird way, other than?
So it makes it because Well, I mean, you're talking about there's been all this third party stuff about Nexus, right? I mean, God help us. I mean, you know, there's been plenty of Nexus for a ton of it, and Gull's been wrong. But once Core said on the stand,
The box
box
cutter.
cutter, that cast confession in an entirely new light.
Right.
And
That was
so
the
in that,
original argument, which I totally understood. I thought you were referring to something new, that it turns out that it's newly discovered for some other reason in addition to that. I got you though.
no, and so the van video, you know, the point of the van video was to put McClellan between a rock and a hard place, and he chose the rock, and didn't address the hard place. And
I know.
you
I
know,
was
he said,
celebrating, reading it and explaining to my husband. I'm like, if he does this, then this happens, and if he does that, then this other thing happens. And he chose to say that it's not new evidence.
which means he knew about it, and they did know about the videos, because my understanding is that so when Keegan Kline came up at in the July and August hearings about the third party stuff, Keegan Kline came up, and some law enforcement guy, somebody told me, testified that from the security video they didn't see Keegan Kline's father's red Jeep. So they knew about the security camera footage. So the thing that he doesn't address is the fail. So this is not, we're not talking about the van video now as newly discovered evidence, because McClellan has said it's not newly discovered. You know, they knew about it. It was in their thing. And by the way, we knew about it too. So we're talking about it as, oh, you knew about it, and you didn't use it to correct Weber's testimony, which you knew was not true. If I'm repeating myself on your live again, Teresa, tell me.
No,
But
you're good.
no, but what I'm about to say is the example that I was thinking of the other day was that, suppose you're a prosecutor and you have a live witness, and you know, to a robbery, and you put that witness on the stand, and the witness IDs the defendant. Great. What if the prosecutor has a video showing the robbery that also has the video of the robbery includes a person who looks somewhat like the defendant, but is identifiably not the defendant? And even if the defense has it, I think, even if the defense has it, I don't think the prosecutor gets to get the witness ID if you got the video that shows, yeah, it looks like the defendant, but it's not.
I agree with you.
And so that's kind of how I look at the van video. I mean, I think, Brad Weber kind of thought he got home at about 2:30, but that's just not right.
And Nick knew it.
Yeah.
The only way that he kind of addresses that is by the timing, saying that it's off by the 12 hours, but we don't know if it's off by minutes as well. And I'm assuming that you have reason to say that it isn't off by a number of minutes as well, and that he kind of walked into a bit of a trap there, is how it looks to me.
Well, he didn't put in any affidavits. He did call out a reason to doubt it, but of course, the van video hooks up with the FBI subject information sheet for Brad Weber, which shows his phone starts pinging at 2:50.
Well, and the other point on that I made when we talked about that was that the investigators should know the difference in the time of the video, since they're the ones who retrieved the video. Like you should know exactly how off the timestamp is when you get the video, just like they claim to know about the Hoosier Harvest store.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, totally.
But
Especially when you see that it's saying AM or PM, then it's going to give you cause to go and look and be like, what time does it currently say that it is?
Correct. Like they would have done that during the investigation. But so what, he should have been able to come on there and been like, no, this document that we turned over in discovery shows that the investigators proved at the time this camera was off by 12 hours and 13 minutes.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's totally how that would have happened. If people behaving reasonably, you would have absolutely verified the current time against what the camera is showing as the current time.
yeah, it would not. It would not have gone well for McClelland on the time. I can tell you if there had been a hearing. And one thing the appellate lawyers could do, I don't know that they're going to, and I think it's probably unlikely, is they could actually ask the Court of Appeals to send it back to Gull for a hearing on one or all the issues in the motion to correct the error.
I hope they do. I hope they send it back to Gull and like, bitch, please take a look at this. Do something about it. She just. Criminal Network thinks that a visual timeline would have been pertinent for the jury to see. Nobody did any visual. There was not a lot of demonstrative evidence brought into this case.
Well, there was some by, yeah, no, I agree. I think lots of it. I mean, one thing that when we were talking about the 4%, did I say what I think I might have done with Cecil on the stand?
No, what would you have done?
I would have taken an iPhone 6 at 4%, and I would have, shown it to Cecil and said, "Is this an iPhone 6?" And he'd have looked at it and said, "Yeah, it's not." I said, "Is it at 4%?" And he said, "Yes." And I would have said, "Okay, well, let's talk about a few other things now." And then I'd have crossed him for about 40 minutes or an hour. And then I'd have picked up the iPhone 6. I picked up the iPhone 6 and said to him, "Oh, it's dead."
That would have been good. That would have been. Gull would have never allowed you to do that, Michael. You know it. She would have been like, "Get that cell phone out of here before I break it."
Well, it would have been one long offer to prove then. The jury would have been out of there and we'd have done it. And the Court of Appeals would have seen it.
Like Mika said, there's no electronics of any kind in Gull's courts. I'm going to find that video. Go ahead.
Timeline would have been good. I mean, yeah, timeline and Michelle does some really nice graphics on the phone stuff and the car and the car stuff.
Michelle After Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's badass. I love her.
I love her accent. I could listen to her all day.
But yeah, I don't know where in England she lives. It almost sounds like Wales to me, but that may
Sounds like a very Yorkshire accent to me, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, no, there's absolutely. But you know what? She doesn't. The thing about the Yorkshire thing, and that's kind of a Birmingham thing too, is she doesn't add "yeah" at the end of sentences.
That's true. Yeah.
You guys make sure you're all subbed to Michelle After Dark and Michelle Walks, because she has 2 channels. So, all right.
But grab it. Yeah.
I was just going to say I'm probably going to wrap it up. So if there's anything else you want to add before we wrap it up, because it's after 10 and I haven't had dinner.
Yeah, it's actually 1:30 almost
Oh,
here, and I have
holy
my
crap.
daughter's skating rink birthday party tomorrow. But I
Oh,
wouldn't
goodness.
sit here until you guys cut me off. So
No, I could literally talk Delphi all night. My husband's like, "Are you gonna come and hang out with us, or what are you doing?" I'm like, talking Delphi. So if there's anything that you guys want to say before we wrap it up, if there's any other questions in chat that you want to make sure get addressed before Erica or Michael steps down, I can only tell you two that the chat has been going crazy about you two, thanking you both tremendously for all of your insight, all of your help. Erica with the stream, that was amazing. Thank you for doing that for us. I mean, you've got a mind on you though, girl. I'm liking the way you think.
thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you, and yes, thank you so much for that video, the sharing that video of the thing. Although, as I did live tweet, the Dateline saying I don't think there's enough money in the world to pay the gas bill.
You know what's funny is that I had just canceled my YouTube TV subscription today because something brought it to my attention, and I was like, "Oh, the football season's over. I don't need that anymore." So I had just canceled it, and then I actually ended up using it for once.
And that's funny. Yeah, it's worked out perfect because I wouldn't have been able to do anything with it until 9 o'clock my time. Everybody would have been in bed.
Yeah, so I
So
only have it for like another 12 days or something, and then it's gone.
Just in
Go
time.
ahead, Michael.
No, just telling everybody to ponder the 4%. I just can't get my head around it.
I'm gonna ponder it. I'm gonna go to the Cecil Apple support websites and see what I can find.
Look up one thing to look up, and I really haven't tracked it down, is a technical term called throttle mode.
Okay.
Concerning the battery?
I can't. So I've looked up throttle mode a little, but and it's ambiguous to me. Throttle mode, it seems to be something that the phone goes into to prevent it from shutting off unexpectedly, which I think kind of means at the end of the battery. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm going to Cecil it too again, and maybe AI it. But
because even if that's the case and it just shuts it off, how the heck does it turn it back on? Does throttle mode also make it come back alive 12 hours later?
No, it doesn't shut it off. It's look it up and see what you can make of it. I only looked at it quickly, and so I don't want to misstate. I don't want to misstate what throttle mode is. People can look it up and yeah.
All right.
It's interesting that one of the undisclosed RISI facts or allegations was the removal and then reinsertion of the battery.
I'm sorry, what?
In McClelland's response, he said that, the RISI also claimed that, Ron said he took the battery out and then put it back in. And I'm like, well, coincidentally, first of all, you never mentioned that before. He did not say that in the one that we've read. But second of all, that actually kind of fits.
Well, actually, it doesn't, but I can't say why.
Oh.
Oh.
Look at Michael dropping bombs right when we're about to hop off.
Well, it fits with the information that I have.
It doesn't.
No, I mean, no. You would think so. You would think that one of two things would have, at 4%, for that thing to end up at 4:33 in the morning, and getting 17 text messages, not to mention the activity in between. You would think that one of two things would have had. Well, one or both of two things would have had to happen. One is the phone was turned off shortly after it was at 4%, and then turned back on at least a couple of times because it's active at 10 something at night. It's active at 5:45 and it's active at 10:30.
Mhm.
And then it's active again at 4:33. Or you would have to think that it was not only turned off and turned back on, but that it was also at least partially charged while it was off.
Yeah, the phone had to have been charged up at some point.
Yeah.
Unless
No
the
apparent.
battery was being repeatedly taken out and put back in.
Well, as I said, there is. See, the thing about McClellan's talking about the battery being put back in makes me at least suspicious that he has knowledge of a second phone that he hasn't told anybody about.
Right, he's
Uh,
inserting that to cover something else or explain something
Well,
else.
no, that he made a mistake. So remember, he mixes up in his response in the motion to correct error. He mixes up whose clothes were burned.
Right,
He
yeah,
does.
that it was Richard
And
Allen's, and he's saying, yeah.
I'm thinking that it's possible he's got some piece of information that he's mixing up in his head about a battery, because either that or he's just making it up, because there's nothing in what we put in about Reese that says anything about a battery.
Right.
Yeah, there were several details in there that I'm assuming are in those 8 letters somewhere.
Yeah, maybe there is. We haven't seen the letter. I mean, yes, it's altogether possible, but who knows? And the other thing is the changing of the battery. If we're talking about Ron Logan, I mean, I don't know what kind of phone Ron Logan had, but I think somebody said that he had a flip phone.
In the interview, he has a flip phone. You can see his flip phone, but then Ange said that she knows that he had an iPhone. So I don't know. Ron Logan's a rabbit hole that I would go to Ange on my questions, because I don't know. I don't know if he had an iPhone, but I know that in one of the interviews you can see that he has a flip phone. You can't see me over here flipping my phone.
And he may have had several phones. I mean, I think I haven't seen the return on the FBI search warrant, so I don't know what they seized, but I know they seized electronic devices, plural. And remember, at least the story now is that he was exchanging kitty porn with Keegan Klein on burner phones, and I'm guessing those burner phones were flip phones.
True.
And changing the battery on a flip phone is no big deal.
Changing the battery on an iPhone, you have to push your little pin thingy in there to get it out.
Yeah, I saw somebody put up a link to a YouTube video where somebody does it. It seems to take 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing somebody's going to be doing with a bloody murder in progress.
True.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing. It's not impossible to do. If you needed to get it out of there, you could, but it's not something you do just on a whim, especially not him, probably. He doesn't seem super tech savvy.
I'm really curious about this whole space gray purple case phone. That is really bothering me a lot.
Yeah,
because
that's a different
I
phone.
was always told that she had a rose gold phone. Always. She had a rose gold phone. And then we found out it was either trial or right before that she had the Gryffindor case on there. That just does not add up to me to be that phone that we're looking at. The space gray phone, that's not what she supposedly had.
Well, that is certainly the phone mentioned. That is certainly how the phone is identified in the 2019 Cecil extraction report. It's not an extraction; it's a report. Identified as space gray.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna find that interview where it says that she had a rose gold phone. I actually I thought that Becky or Kelsey testified about that too, but I could just be mixing things up in my brain. But I know that phone was supposed to be rose gold.
iPhone 6 is the first one that came in rose gold too.
If I find it,
Yeah,
I'll send
and they're very pretty. But I think it really is. Well, we'll see. I mean, yeah, there's something funny with the phones. There's no question. I mean, so anyway, thank you.
Oh no, thank you, Michael. Shoot, thank you so much, both of you guys. This wouldn't have been anything near what we were able to accomplish tonight without the two of you. So I cannot thank you guys enough for coming up and helping, and just like I said, just for the contributions of information and thoughts, and it's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. I'm going to email you, Michael,
Okay, sounds
about
great.
the miles, the radius. I'm sorry, I'm starting to not even make sense at this point. I'm sleepy.
I know.
Regarding the miles.
All right. Well, thank you both
Okay.
for being here. Chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. And most of you guys have been here like the entire time, almost 6 hours. That's just crazy. We've been on almost 6 hours. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching Dateline with me, because I wouldn't have made it through that on my own without a lot of more curse words than I did. So as always, I know that you guys have 1,000 other places that you can spend your time, and you guys choose to hang out here with me and Erica and Michael Osbrook. And we thank you so much for it. And amazing guests. Round of applause. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I will see you guys on, I don't know if I'm going to do one this weekend, but I will definitely see you Monday if I don't see you this weekend. So have a good one, everybody. I'll see you out on the YouTube streets. Bye.
Bye.
Do you dare to follow me down? Head into the unknown. Down the rabbit hole. Where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown.